Okay,
Hello
yes.
to everyone. I'm so excited to share this information with you and to continue to get lots of scholarships for students. We're already in the process of applying now, and the students who've already started have done their college tours and are being accepted now to honors college. So we're super excited to see how many of them get full scholarships.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Bell. So, Afam, do you want to share your slides?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I'll do that. Muya, please, could you help me just put it up? Good evening, everyone. While we wait for Mr. Muyiwa to help me with the slide, I just want to take it up from where Mrs. Bolaji Osime, our CEO, just addressed us. So essentially what we're here to talk about, she's laid out all the different channels and all the different schools or countries we work with parents on achieving the academic goals. But I'll specifically be talking about the SAT program, the PrEP program, as well as the AP program as it applies to the conversation that we're having today. It is a good thing, like Mr. Osime rightly said, to start the preparation on time. Most of the time we find out that parents, Nigerian parents don't have as much information as they need to. And so they wait for when their children are out of school and then they have them take the SAT. Some do it maybe when they're in SS3 and then take it again when they're out of school while they're doing their gap year program. But it's advisable for them to start way before that time, say something around GSS3, take the PSAT or just have an idea of how the exam looks like. And then in your SS1, you repeat some of it, and then SS2, just try doing all of that. There is a package now that we have out there that we've sent to some of the schools that we're partnering with. And in that package, we have indicated clearly that as soon as you get to your SS1, you should start your SAT, start taking the prep class, and see if you can even introduce some AP courses. You don't necessarily need to write the exams while in SS1, but, just get the student familiarized with the AP courses, the SAT exam itself. There are no penalties to take the SAT more than once. So it will be advisable for them to take the SAT and get to understand it properly. Seeing the redesigned SAT and even the introduction of the computer-based exam, we've noticed that students tend to have some struggles here and there. So all of that can be addressed if they start early enough. Today, we have the December SAT, which happened today in Nigeria and across the world. And I noticed that while we're in the hall, because I had to also invigilate some students today. And while we're in the hall, we noticed that some students were finding it very difficult to, work with the computer-based SAT, because before now it has been paper-based and some optional computer-based exam, but now it is fully a CBT exam. And since the CBT exam and most Nigerian students are not so used to it, we saw them struggling in the exam hall, trying to understand what to do next, or trying to understand how to manage their time between reading the questions and using their scratch paper and then clicking the right options. But if they had started early enough, like I was saying to the school that I saw there, I said, if the student has started early enough, say probably in their SS1, SS2, by the time they're taking the exam in the SS3 or after school, then they would have familiarized themselves better with the exam. So it's a very strong thing for us to note here that students should, of a necessity, start taking their SAT on time. Also, starting on time will help them adjust to the vocabulary. Most schools in Nigeria are the best. They do the Nigerian curriculum and the UK curriculum. And when you are having the Nigerian curriculum and the UK curriculum, and then suddenly when they get to SS3, you ask them to write the SAT, the struggle with the difference in the vocabulary, the difference in the concept of the exam and the structure of the exam. So emphasis is still on the fact that the students should start to prepare on time for their SAT. Take as many SAT as possible. Start from SS1, SS2, and then you can take it again when you get to SS3. Just to talk about the structure, we have the SAT that has two structures, the math section and the English section, and both of them, maximum score obtainable is 800 on each, which comes to 1600 for both. And over the years, we've been able to prepare students to score above 1500, 1550, 1560, even though we have some exceptions like 1300 and all of that. But we're saying that early preparation will guarantee you having those scores so that when you're ready to go to school, you know that you've locked down the aspect of the SAT, and then you also ensure that your GPA is good coming from your WAEC and your transcript. We're talking about the AP program. I would like to emphasize on the fact that from our experience, students coming here, they want to take the AP calculus or they want to take the AP computer science, and they actually do not have a very solid foundation, and that results in them struggling. A couple of students that had applied from other schools to write the AP calculus exam remotely, some of them from the Eastern schools and also from South, they struggle because further maths is actually not made as a compulsory course in secondary school. At best, they do the general maths, and calculus is more of the further maths, what secondary schools refer to as further maths, where they do things like the differentiation, integration, metrics, and all of that. And so my advice to parents is that if your child is not taking further maths now, and they're going to have to do some science courses in future, please advocate that they take the further maths course. I was saying to a school the other day that I went to speak to in Port Harcourt, I said, even if they will not write the exam in the final year, ensure that they take their classes, because it will help them when they have to take their AP courses. You know, early introduction to further maths and calculus will also help them to achieve those grades, you know, for the AP courses. A couple of students that took the exam last year and the year before that, the reason why they were successful in the AP calculus is because they have a very good foundation in further maths. And of course, some of the higher achievers are being displayed here. We have the likes of Mui, we have Reina, that's currently with us now, doing very well. We have Nuka and IB. These ones did so well because the foundation was there, and by the time they came to us, we were able to work with them. But that is not to say that if your further maths is not good, we cannot assist you. What we would rather advocate is that if at some point you realize that your child is not doing further maths, and they're probably going to do engineering, or they're going to do medicine, or they're going to do management courses, business courses, please contact us. We can start with them now with the pre-calculus courses before they even go on to take the AP calculus. Yeah, so it is important that you start that on time. And then for those that will also be doing the computer science, don't just wait until they get to SS3 or when they're out of school before they start applying to do the computer science program. You know, get them enrolled in some computer programming languages, get them enrolled in some computer courses. You know, it will really help them. Most times they struggle. We had a situation last year where more than 30% of the students that came to apply with us for the computer science program did not have a solid background on the computer courses, no programming language. They couldn't do any coding as such. And so when they had to do a project that covers 30% of the final score, they really did struggle. And so what we had to do was to get an extra support for them to ensure that they were well prepared for the exam. Well, at the end of the day, we came out with a very good result, and some of the results have been displayed here. Please, can you help me move the next slide? Yes, so, okay, these are some of the students that we worked with last year. Cheta Evans, Omoloye, Mori, they did pretty well now in different schools in the US. We have two of them that got into Ivy League school from this particular set, Rice. One got into Rice and the other one got into Columbia. So we're saying that to achieve all of that is to ensure that early preparation for the SAT and also taking the AP courses from early as SS1, SS2, and then before they are done with school, at least they would have taken more than 4, 5, or 6 AP courses. And then in their gap year, they can add an additional 4. And so when they are going to school and they already have 10 AP courses covered, not only will they have those courses transferred for them, because the good thing about the AP courses is that most schools in America, they will recognize it, and because of that, you earn credit, and those credits are transferable. So you have that credit there. You have credit that they can transfer, one advantage. Another advantage is that because they've been taking the American courses, there is a smooth transition from the Nigeria or the British curriculum that they're used to here into the American curriculum that they'll be doing over there. So it's a win-win for the student. It's a win-win for the student. So I think I'll just leave it at this point. At the point of question time, I could answer some specific questions that you have. Most of all of these will have been addressed by the CEO. And I think I'll just hand over to the CEO again now until we get to the question and answer section. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Efem. Thank you so much for that. The additional thing about AP classes as well is that it gets you a credit in terms of money. When it comes to money, one credit is usually about £1,000. So a student doing about 5 AP courses will probably be able to save between $5,000 and $10,000 as well. So all of these things are that's why we do these things, because they translate to money, because it's advanced credit, which means that when they get to uni, when they get to college, they've already done those courses, so you don't have to pay for them. So these are things that are very, very important. So on that note, I'm going to have to add, thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Efem, for sharing. Can you stop sharing, please? Dr. Bell, it's your turn now to speak.
I'm here. All right. Can you hear me well, Ms. Osme?
Yes, very clear.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. My name is Dr. Valencia Bell, and I'm the CEO of Schools. Schools stands for Success Can Happen Out of Low Scores. And our definition of a low test score is a score that does not allow students to receive scholarships and admission to their schools of choice. And so I'll just say next slide. So that's probably the easiest way to do it. So next slide. All right, so the slides are not advancing.
Oh, you can see them. Can everybody see them? I can see them on my end.
It says press slideshow.
Oh, is this still on the first one?
Mm.
Oh, wow. What went wrong?
Press slideshow. There you go. All right,
okay.
Back one, back. No worries.
Okay.
All right, so we provide these services to all of our students globally. We give them access to test prep, advisement for NCAA clearance if they're interested in playing sports in the United States, and advisement for college admissions, picking the right college, picking the right major, and making sure that the schools that they're interested in actually have the scholarship profiles that they need, and then assisting students to receive the maximum amount of scholarships available. So at all U.S. universities, there will be overall scholarships that are just based on GPA and test scores. And then each individual college within the overall college will also have a set of scholarships. So for example, if you are an engineering student, there may be presidential scholarships for the university, and then the College of Education or Engineering, if you're double majoring, would also have sets of scholarships. So there are multiple buckets of scholarships that students are eligible to apply for. Next slide. So we offer test prep from ACT, SAT, PSAT, the GRE, the GMAT, the DAT for dental school, the MCAT for medical school, the NCLEX for nursing, the Praxis, and also the PE for professional engineers here. We also offer concierge services, and Ms. Osme has spoken about that, with essay writing assistance, college application assistance, interviewing skills as well, and resume creation. Many of the schools in the United States, once you have a very high GPA and a high ACT or SAT test score, will invite you to do a personal interview by Zoom, or if you are in the United States in person, to apply for their honors colleges, which give you the opportunity to have assistantships and internships as early as the end of your freshman year. Next slide. So I have been doing ACT, SAT prep and working with college admissions for over 40 years. And I have 5,000 decision makers that I've spoken with over the years, just to make sure that our students are poised to receive scholarships. And so here is a good benchmark for you to use when you're thinking about full ride or partial scholarships in the United States. Is having a high GPA, high test scores, and being a high quality applicant. So most of the presidential or full ride scholarships are looking for students with a verified 3.5 GPA or higher, with test scores above a 1400 on the SAT or above a 30 to 32 range on the ACT. And what's most important is making sure that the applicant is a high quality applicant. Schools are looking to admit students who are going to become distinguished alumni. And so just having good scores and having a good GPA is not enough to make students marketable, particularly for very high-end scholarships. So, for example, if I use the University of Southern California, they had over 83,000 applicants for the freshman class this year, and they only chose 3,800 students. So out of 85,000 applicants, more than 70,000 applicants had a perfect 4.0 and a perfect 1,600. So students applying with great scores and great grades that have nothing but great scores and great grades stand a chance of not even being accepted, even though they do. So you want your applicant to stand out. That comes through in your essays, but also in your resume. Next slide. It's from acceptance to internship to job placement. So initially, we work with your college application and acceptance. We then look for internships during and after college. If you are interested in applying to terminal degree programs, we offer test prep throughout those programs. And we also help with job placement and graduate assistantships. Next slide. So we have disrupted this industry, and I want to share some of our success stories and to let you know that if you decide to move forward, there's a time sequence that you really need to pay attention to in order to position yourselves for the highest level of scholarship dollars. Next slide. So since 2009 to present, we've helped more than 250,000 scholars and scholar athletes to be able to get $250 million in scholarships. That number is still growing. We are a globally certified benefit corporation. And what that means is that around the globe, our social impact has been featured by the Wharton Business School. In 2021, we won the Knowledge for Impact Award as one of the top 6 global social impact companies. We've also received awards from Harvard, from USC, and from MIT. Our goal is to make sure that students are not coming to the US and not thriving. So just to be accepted to MIT and not have the additional $80,000+ a year to thrive at MIT puts students at risk for not matriculating to graduation. Next slide. So I'll use myself as an example. I actually started high school at the age of 12 and had a 26 on the ACT on my first try. Here in the United States, what that equated to me in 1988 was a $3 million scholarship aggregate, of which I was able to keep $400,000 of that. So I ran track. My scholarships were academic scholarships, not just athletic scholarships. So those of you who are interested in applying as athletes, if you get a full academic scholarship and you're also given an athletic scholarship, your athletic money can come back to you as a refund. And so it's super important for students to start the scholarship search process early so that they can get as much money as possible on both ends. Those scholarships also make students eligible for NIL deals, which is name, image, and likeness. NIL deals are not just for athletes. NIL deals can also be given for high scoring and high ranking students. So think about that as well. Next slide. So we have an award-winning proof of concept, and I just wanted to share with you some of the awards that we have received from USC, as I said before, from MIT, Wharton, and Harvard. But I wanted you to understand that because we have received awards from these prestigious schools, we have really good relationships with their decision makers. I was blessed to be able to graduate as one of the top 10 Black alumni in the history of the 144 years of the University of Southern California, Fight on Trojans. And so it's very easy for me to call decision makers at schools of this magnitude to be able to present the scholars that we represent. Next slide. So here's just a partial list of all the schools that students in Global received scholarships for last year. I apologize, I'm not sure why the formatting is off, but as you can see, these are schools that students chose based on their majors. And it was over $600,000 US in scholarships. Schools such as UAB, Florida A&M, Syracuse, SCAD, Pratt, Georgia State, Michigan State, Texas A&M, Alabama A&M. So it's important for students to really look at the schools that will give them the most money for the GPA that they have and for the scores that they have. So I'll give you an example. I have students sometimes who have a 31 on the ACT, which is a very good score on the ACT. But if you're interested in applying to MIT, a 31 is very, very low. You would really need to retake the test and be more in the 34, 35 range. However, a 31 at Texas A&M could get you a full scholarship. So you really want to do the research in advance and apply to 6 schools. I tell students to apply to 2 schools that are stretch schools. Those are the top of the line schools, 2 schools that would be more of a medium length, and 2 schools that they may not even be interested in, but they definitely would be a high ranking scholar with the scores that they have. Next slide. All right, so here's an example. Brandon Turner was one of our students. He is graduating actually from Northwestern next year. As you can see, his SAT score was not super high, but because he had a 3.56 GPA and he was an athlete, you will find that the requirements for many of the Ivy League schools for athletes are a lot lower than regular students. We were able to get him a full football and academic scholarship, and we saved him $335,000 plus over 4 years because Northwestern is about $83,000 a year, give or take, a little bit more than that. Next slide. Next, you will see the list of the Ivy League schools that we have participating relationships with: Harvard, Princeton, Yale, UPenn, Columbia, Cornell, Rice, WashU in St. Louis, Notre Dame, Carnegie Mellon, Michigan, Ann Arbor, UC Berkeley, UCLA, UNC Chapel Hill. Next slide. The list goes on and on, but it's just to show you that we do have relationships and students who are in these schools. And so it's very, very easy for us to call our scholars that are already in the schools to actually guide the students through. So for example, we have a student right now in the pipeline who's applying to Brown, and I was able to have her speak with one of my students who's right now a sophomore at Brown. And so during her visit, if she had wanted to, she could have actually seen that student's dorm room, walked around campus with that student. But because we have done this for 40 years, we have students who now not only went to those schools, but are professors at those schools. So we have a whole network to make students feel comfortable when they transition over into the United States. Next slide. Here's another list of schools: Brown, Dartmouth, MIT. I am a researcher at MIT right now. Chicago, Johns Hopkins, done research for Hopkins, Georgetown, Florida, Wake Forest, Emory, Virginia, USC, research with them as well, NYU, Stanford, Duke, CIT, Northwestern, and Vanderbilt. Next slide. So here's another example of a student. We start prep as early as the 3rd grade here in the United States because there are programs such as the Johns Hopkins Center for Talented Youth that will allow students to take classes at Johns Hopkins if they have qualifying scores as early as the 2nd grade in the United States. So these students are 8, 9 years old taking classes at Johns Hopkins. And so Cole is an example of that. He actually came through our ACT, SAT program and college prep program as a 7th grader. He took his first test in the 5th grade. And in 7th grade, he decided that he wanted to start taking classes at Johns Hopkins. He is interested in being a pediatric oncologist. He wants to study cancer in children because he is a pediatric oncology survivor. He had a brain tumor when he was much younger. And so his essays are tremendous. He also plays soccer, and he knows that he wants to go to medical school at Johns Hopkins. So he's been taking classes at Johns Hopkins since the 7th grade and is on track to be accepted to their medical school on an early track program. An early track program means that when he applies to medical school, instead of going to 4 years of undergraduate and 4 years of medical school, Cole will graduate from medical school in 5 years. So he'll have his undergraduate degree and he'll have his medical degree in 5 years. And then if you take off the additional classes that he's taking right now, that could even be much shorter. He could possibly get out of undergraduate and medical school in 4 years because he's already started to take classes. Next slide. So our goal is to have students degree without poverty. And what I mean by poverty is students who come to the United States, and even students who are within the United States, who do not have a financial plan on how they're going to pay for undergraduate and graduate school, can truly go through financial estates very quickly. Here in the United States, a 4-year degree could cost you close to $187,000. At an Ivy League school, that number is doubled. And then if you're looking at a terminal degree, that's an additional $200,000 to $400,000 atop of the $200,000 spent for undergraduate. So when we're looking at scholarships, we want to have a scholarship profile that covers not only their tuition, room and board, but also those miscellaneous fees that students don't think about. For example, most scholarships do not cover transportation. They also do not cover the amount of money that's necessary if you are accepted into honor societies. And so we want students to have an additional amount of money just sitting in their accounts, waiting for them to be used so that they don't have to call their parents for every little financial thing that comes up. So we're super excited about the partnership that we've had. We have students that are being accepted early through early action and early decision. And I would really encourage you to make sure that if you're starting the application process, that you start a year and a half early so that you can begin to work on taking the SAT as many times as possible to super score to a perfect score, and also to start writing those essays early so that you are on track for early admission. That's the last slide.
Thank you, Dr. Bell. Thank you so much for that. That's really a lot has been said in that. I know you was like, saying it quite quickly, and I know we will be able to break it down now so that we can take questions. I'm not sure if Ayobami is here. Is she here? She had traveled and she was on her way back. So, but I think it's time to take questions, and then if she joins us, she might quickly just dash through her slides if she's able to join us. She was going to look at the Common App and speak to the Common App and some of the other scholarship programs that we're looking at, but I can't see her yet. So we would go to the questions, and please, there are quite a few of them. So please, if you have any more questions, I'm just going to go through and ask Dr. Bell and EFAM to respond, depending on what the question is about, and we'll take it from there. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, good. I want my son to study in the US, currently in SS3. Now we need help now, which means high school, really, Dr. Bell. That's grade 12. So would be a class of 2026.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of parents are on that. So is there anything you want to tell them? I think you've already said it though, but if there's anything else you need to
definitely to go ahead and contract with you as early as possible. It really makes a difference when students have had enough time to think about what is the correct school for them academically, athletically, if they're playing a sport, and geographically. I mean that with the sincerity of heart, because many times students do not do enough research up front and they're accepted to schools that don't fit them. For example, students will say, oh, I don't mind going to school in the Northeast, until they realize that when they get to Yale, it's 40 degrees below zero in the winter. And they are just like, I wanted to really go to school in Florida. So you really need to make sure that the schools that you're applying to have your major, have access to internships and externships, have access to a great alumni network. You won't know those things if you don't do the research early. So that is my suggestion to all of the parents who have students who are coming up into the class of 2026. The applications for 2026 will go live on June 1st in the United States. You apply a year beforehand. So early action will be in August. So if you don't have your scores in place and you're still trying to raise your scores, it will be very limiting for you to apply for early action and for the highest level of scholarships that are necessary. Do it now. Start early so that you're in the best contention for the highest level of scholarships. That would be my advice to you.
Thank you
Excellent
so much.
question.
Yes. FM, students who are in SS3, what's the plan for them for their SATs if they haven't done it yet?
Sorry, we'll take that again.
Students who are in SS3 who would, because March will be the next SAT,
Exactly.
right? Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's their first opportunity. Okay. So do you want to
Yes,
speak
it's
to
good to
that?
take that.